Follow me into the history of Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great, who ruled Egypt over 3,000 years ago. This video looks at the exhibition of Ramses II, which is on display at the Battersea Power Station, London, England. The exhibit is a walkthrough that consists of videos and objects over 3,000 years old from the time of Ramses the Great. As you enter the exhibition, you are shown a quick video that explains who and what it was like to live at the time of Ramses. Then you walk through doors, and you are confronted with a giant head of Ramses, and to the right is a giant obelisk. A obelisk, or as the ancient Egyptians would call a tekken, is a tall, four-sided monument cut from a single piece of stone, topped with a small pyramid called a pyramiding, which would be covered in gold. This was to catch the divine rays of the sun, and would make the obelisk look as it was glowing. They were constructed to connect Earth directly to the sun god Ra. Ra was the most important god of the ancient Egyptians. He was the creator of life and king of the gods. The reason why Egypt went from a local power to a regional superpower. You have to look no further than the chariot. It was a super weapon of the Bronze Age. Ancient Egyptians didn't use the chariot as a battering ram. They used it as a mobile platform for archers and would hit the enemy and run away before the enemy could react, like in the Battle of Kadesh. The center block captures Ramses, axe in hand, ready to smite the three traditional enemies of Egypt: a Syrian, a Nubian, and a Libyan soldier. The contrast in scale between Ramses and the captives emphasizes his status as a pharaoh and his power and dominion over the captives. The two other blocks feature General Pique, this army commander, who came from a Syrian family. Served first under Ramses' father, Seti I, before being promoted by Ramses. A limestone mold was used by the Egyptian workmen to manufacture the protective shield. This was based on a Hittite design. When you talk about Ramses the Great, you will almost certainly talk about his battle at Kadesh. It's one of the most famous battles of ancient times. The battle began with Ramses marching his men north into modern-day Syria. Two Hittite spies allowed themselves to be caught and gave the Egyptians false information about the Hittite army. Ramses, believing his path was clear, rushed ahead with only one of his 4 divisions. The Hittite, King Muwatalli, was hiding behind the city with a massive army. As the 2nd Egyptian division hurried to catch up with Ramses, the Hittites launched their attack and charged through the Egyptian lines and surrounding Ramses' camp. Ramses' version, he called upon the god Amun and single-handedly drove the Hittites into the Orontos River. What really happened was a task force of elite Egyptian reinforcements arrived unexpectedly from the coast and attacked the Hittite army from behind, with both empires unable to continue the war effectively, which led to the first peace treaty 15 years later. Ramses the Great in his early 20s became the 3rd pharaoh of the 19th dynasty. After the death of his father Seti I, Ramses became a formidable warrior, peacemaker, and a prodigious builder. He had over 100 children and ruled Egypt for 67 years. The great Temple of Abu Simbel was carved into the sandstone cliffs in southern Egypt. It served as a monument to the power of the pharaoh. It is dominated by 4 statues of Ramses. Deep inside the temple are 4 statues who sit in darkness, apart from twice a year, when the solar alignment in February and October, when the sun aligns perfectly to shine through the entrance onto 3 of the statues, Ra, Ramses, Amun-Ra, and the 4th, being Ptah, the god of the underworld, remains in the shadows. In the 1960s, the temple faced total destruction due to the construction of the Aswan Dam. To save it, a UNESCO team was set up to dismantle the temple and move it 65 meters higher and 200 meters back from the original shoreline. As you can see from the model at the exhibition, it was a great piece of engineering to save the temple. Ramses built 7 temples along the Nile. The largest he named the Great Temple, the House of Ramses, beloved of Amun. Ramses enshrined himself here as a god, declaring himself the equal of the Egyptian gods. A smaller temple was dedicated to Hathor, the goddess of fertility, and to the living manifestation of Hathor, his beloved wife, Nefertari. As you walk around the exhibition, you are confronted with some amazing artifacts from the time of Ramses, from the Sphinx statue to amazing jewelry worn at the time of Ramses the Great, remembering that these items were made 3,000 years ago. This statue of a young Ramses, with round face and almond eyes, is an official portrait. He holds in his hand the royal scepter, a symbol of his kingly powers. On the back of the statue there is a cartouche, which this indicates that the enclosed text is a royal name. Kamweset was the 4th son of Ramesses II and the 2nd son by his queen Isetnofret. His contributions to Egyptian society were remembered for centuries after his death. Kamwesit has been described as the first Egyptologist due to his efforts in identifying and restoring historic buildings, tombs, and temples. In this statue, he is held a figure of the god Patano for creating thought and knowledge. The vizier was the highest official in ancient Egypt. His paramount duty was to run the country, much like a prime minister does today. Egyptian statues were painted with bright colors, but the very expensive statues were made using colored stones and metals. Only the king and high-ranking priest could enter sanctuaries to make offerings to the gods. These jugs and cups would have been used at festivals at the shrines to the gods. Let's look at some other aspects of life in the times of Ramses from over 3,000 years ago, as these might surprise you. As you can see from the detail on the artifacts from the royal tombs, thousands of years old, gold bracelets to rings, and mirrors, we can only wonder what amazing lives the royals lived in thousands of years ago as kings and queens of ancient Egypt. This amazing mirror that has been preserved was once a valued object for a princess or queen of Egypt, and bowls with detailed designs that have lasted and look as detailed as when they were made, with maidens swimming in the river for fish amongst the reeds. Prior to the discoveries in the tombs at Dashur, most knowledge of ancient Egyptian women's jewelry came from statues and wall images. These remarkable finds reveal the metalwork of ancient Egyptian craftsmanship. This amazing dagger of Princess Ita and a royal lady's diadem sat atop her wig. The hanging gold bands and rosettes are a luxurious version of ribbons and flowers that women of lesser status would twist through their hair. Death was just the next step in the circle of life to Egyptians. The scarab beetle represented life, rebirth, and creation. It was associated with the sun god Khepri, who would roll the disk of the morning sun over the eastern horizon. Animals from the ancient landscape were mummified as an offering to the gods to help in the passage to the afterlife. The hawk was a creature of the sky and was closely linked to the sun god Ra. The ancients regarded the hawk as a messenger of the gods and a connection between heaven and earth. Because of the amount of wealth buried with royals in their tombs, they would be broken in and robbed. It's amazing that we have these items to see the wealth and status of ancient royals. The cobra head, as seen on crowns, was closely associated with the goddess Wadjet and symbolized power and protection. The coffin of Ramses. This beautiful carved cedar coffin held Ramses' final remains. Hieroglyphs on the lid show his cartouche. Thank you for taking this walk through the exhibit of Ramses the Great. I hope it brings you closer to ancient Egypt.